Pope Leon XIV had been in his position for less than a month, and he was already truly exhausted. Not just due to the long workdays and the burden of leading 1.3 billion spiritually. Also due to the ongoing revelations of secrets that only a pope can and must know. Even those creatures that the Vatican keeps locked up in the prison on the 3rd basement level, and those that are still free and must be captured. But that night, I was thrilled. The church, in utmost secrecy, had carried out countless excavations on Mount Ararat, and they had finally found Noah's Ark. Father Rukaku, the chief jailer of the Vatican, confirmed this. Leon paced anxiously back and forth, waiting for the list of everything that had been found inside, because yes, the Ark was intact. Imagine the annoyed look on the Pope's face when Father Rukaku walked in through the door, carrying a huge suitcase instead of a list. And looking at Leon, he said, "Haven't you packed your suitcase?" "We must leave immediately, Your Holiness, Leon." Rukaku angrily replied, "Rukaku, I swear I'll transfer you to a church in Antarctica. If you keep up with these kinds of jokes, are you afraid of the list of what they found? And leave the way you came." The priest, looking offended, stood up straight and said in a solemn voice, "This is how it is written, Your Holiness. You have to go to the excavations on Mount Ararat, whether you want to or not. Because every pope is obliged to know every ancient immortal mentioned in the Gospels, and don't you guess who we found sleeping at the bottom of the Ark? Stay with me, and I will tell you everything that Pope Leon and his faithful companion Rukaku experienced. And don't even think about missing the ending. I promise not to disappoint you, because I am the documentarian and this is the Pope. Visit to Noah. My main source on Vatican matters. And if you like these stories, give it a like, share, and subscribe to Netflix so they'll hurry up and fund the series. And turn on all the blessed bells so you get notified when I release a new video. Okay, let's continue. Rukaku helped pack a small suitcase with the essentials, and the Pope said, "All right, let's get this over with once and for all. I hope it's worth it, because I have commitments here, and besides, we can't lie." "That's right, we have to make an announcement, since everyone will see me board the plane. I don't want an expensive private rental. Let's go on commercial flights or something better." But Rukakulo interrupted, saying, "Under no circumstances, Your Holiness, we will not lie, because we simply won't say anything. You cannot break Vatican secrecy for this kind of matters. And don't worry, no one will see it. Because remember, we're not the richest institution in the world, not at all. Our responsibility requires certain expensive tools. Your Holiness, and for that we have your special plane prepared." The Pope laughed heartily and said, "We don't have any plane, Rukaku. Stop joking and let's go as soon as possible." "It's very clear. I read the vehicle inventory, and we have a helicopter, but no plane at all." The priest replied, "It's just that this isn't that plane, the one we use for our special missions. And of course it's not listed anywhere because, well, you'd better see it for yourself." "This way, Your Holiness." The priest led him to a dead-end hallway, turned a crucifix 6 times to the left, 6 times to the right, and another 6 times to the left. Again, and the entire wall slid aside, revealing a long staircase. After finishing listening to the Pope grumble, Rukaku pushed open a wide door and the Pope's jaw dropped to the floor. When he saw that underground hangar with an imposing black plane, similar to the combat ones but bigger and sturdier, the Pope said, "Couldn't we have had a white one, or at least one that doesn't look like we're about to start World War III like this thing?" And wait, because it has the number 666 painted on the side. Rukaku replied, "It's in case we get shot down, Your Holiness. We can't put the Vatican flag or the papal coat of arms on it. No one should know that the plane is ours. Only you and our hunters can use it." Imagine an ancient vampire causing trouble in Romania or China. Well, we can't let that thing run loose, and we also can't make a formal request to the governments to use their airspace. You know, for example, in this case, what do you suppose we should say to the President of Turkey? I don't think he'll be very happy, and we formally request permission for the Pope himself to go visit the Ark that we excavated from Mount Ararat. For decades, we were doing that in absolute secrecy, without them knowing anything. We can't tell him that the Vatican is going to claim custody of everything that's in there. No, Your Holiness. Civil governments don't know how to handle these matters. It's our responsibility, and it must be done in the utmost secrecy. Leon complained equally in Spanish and English. Finally, both of them boarded the plane. The Pope looked around and didn't see any pilot. The roof opened above them and the aircraft began its vertical ascent without making any noise. Then, he gave Rukaku a piercing look and said, "Aren't you going to explain any of this to me? What is this thing supposed to be?" "A modified Harrier. And where's the person who operates this?" Rukaku laughed and answered him, "Oh, nothing like that, Your Holiness. Do you know about Area 51 over there in your home country, that secret United States base, where people say there are 3 alien ships and some aliens?" "Well, that's a lie, an absolute lie, because actually they only have 2. We have the other ship, Your Holiness. And, well, we also have Priet Perato the Grey." The extraterrestrial pilot who was flying it was a little injured, but he managed to survive when he crashed in 1947. He's a somewhat grumpy extraterrestrial, but you know. He ended up converting to Catholicism and helped us build this plane, which can't be detected if we use it at night. Hold on tight though, because it's a 2,600-kilometer trip, and we'll do it in just a few minutes. And well, as soon as he finished saying this, the Pope's back was pressed against the seat until he almost lost consciousness as the craft shot up into the night clouds like a bullet. When he started to recover, he looked out the window and saw that they were practically in space, and he couldn't help but shed a few tears. Did the Pope, like everyone else, ever dream of being an astronaut and being able to gaze at the stars like this? But the dream didn't last long, because the ship descended at maximum speed and stopped abruptly, landing vertically on the base at the east of Mount Ararat. Immediately, Rukaku helped Pope Leon out, saying, "This way, Your Holiness." The entrance is camouflaged just a few meters away. "No one must know that you have been here, so we will withdraw our people and be alone." And as they walked like a lantern through that beastly tunnel, the priest added, "But first of all, you must know that the Ark is enormous, full of compartments. And well, as you know, God ordered Noah back then to board it. A female and a male of each species, that's how it's written. And of everything that lives, of all flesh, 2 of each species, you will bring into the Ark. So that they may have life with you, they will be male and female. But we have the complete Gospels in the Vatican. And well, it turns out that some species from that time were very different from those of today, and extremely dangerous." That's how it is. After saying that, God asked him, "And you know you must choose which species will go down with your family to repopulate the earth, and which will stay forever in the Ark with you." 1,000 years ago, we took that part out of the Gospels because people read about them staying forever in the Ark, and everyone wanted to find it. And whatever is inside it couldn't fall into the hands of infidels. It took us centuries to acquire the technology to know exactly where we needed to dig. And look, there it is. Inside a gigantic cave illuminated by torches and a faint light coming in from the top of the mountain, Noah's Ark appeared before them. Leon smiled, but a slight chill ran through his soul. It was much bigger than he had imagined. It was hundreds of meters wide, and its length seemed endless. A sturdy wooden staircase led to the side entrance, which was about 4 stories high. The Pope said, of all the animals back then, 1 pair. Of course it had to be that big, but how did he manage to build it? Rukaku, surprised, said to him, Nephilims, your holiness, giants who helped him with the wood, not just an angel, the construction, and to keep out the desperate men and women who tried to get in as soon as the rains began. Now be careful in the corridors of the compartments. We have lost many good men, but there is no other way. He won't come down, your holiness. Get ready. We're going to meet Noe. Don't look at me like that. Like I told you before, God ordered him to stay in the ark forever, and the priest couldn't finish the sentence, because as soon as they went up, before them appeared Noe, an old, tall, and robust man who immediately spoke to them harshly. You, Gordon Flan, and you, man in white, will never get me out of here. God ordered me so, and if it weren't for his will, I would already be dead. In fact, I faked my death when I turned 950 years old so that my relatives would stop coming to this cave, and insisting I should go out and live outside more. No, I do exactly what God orders me to do. If you saw what I saw, if you saw the waters rise and sweep everything away, woe to you. With all those thousands of men and women who lived without obeying his commands and were full of wickedness, I still hear in my ears the screams of terror, begging for mercy, begging for help, as the ark rose, carried by the currents and drowned them. No, I'm not moving from here. Rukaku looked annoyed. He said he wasn't fatty, he just had big bones. And after introducing the Pope, he replied to Noe by saying, Look, that's how it's written. The Vatican must gather under its protection every immortal who serves the work of God, and provide a home for the rest so they cannot do evil. His Holiness here present comes to assure you that we have a comfortable, safe place for you and the creatures you guard in your ark. The Pope interrupted and added, Understand, Mr. Noah, that times have changed, and governments will find out sooner or later that you are here. Will they take you as a prisoner or something worse? Come with us, good man. We have a flying machine outside. Haven't you ever dreamed of flying? But Noe puffed out his chest proudly and said, I can fly too if it were up to me. Winged creatures are what I have plenty of, but God told me, don't leave here, no. And if you are men of God, you must pass the test. If you're sent by him and telling the truth, prove it. If you manage to survive in there, if you find me before the carnivorous siren sings her songs of lament, then well, you'll get more than what you're looking for. I guarantee you that. And saying this, he ran into the ark, laughing like a madman. Leon looked at Rukaku with an annoyed expression and said, Are we supposed to play hide and seek? We're too old for this, Rukaku. I'm worried that the man isn't right in the head. The priest said, You've been alone over 4,000 years, locked in here. He must be hallucinating. Imagine, he called me fatty. He definitely doesn't see reality clearly, but that's your duty. Take him. Your Holiness, shall we go in now, if that's all right with you? The Pope went in first. It wasn't the inside of a ship as we know it now. Leon found himself in narrow wooden corridors that led to countless cages. stables and mangers. They walked all the way to the end, but they were all empty. And then they opened a door that led them to the lower level. There, Rukaku froze, pointing at the large cage where an imposing 4-meter-tall humanoid creature covered in hard scales and giant wings was sleeping against the wall. The priest, trembling, said, "The myths are true, Your Holiness. Be quiet. Don't move unless you want to be roasted alive." What you see there is a Nephilim Draco. They were born from the union of a fallen angel and a dragoness. You know, they would fly together. Both were species full of wisdom, and, you understand, they would end up falling in love. Then, the dragoness would lay some special eggs, and this thing would come out. A new species that inherited the worst of both sides. Bad temper, worse morals, and a good aim for throwing fireballs. The good thing is that they sleep for centuries, as long as no one is stupid enough to wake them up. Look, there is the female sleeping. Also in our library we have everything about Nephilims, Draco, and just like with lions, the female is the main hunter. Let's not make any noise. At the end of that level, they didn't find Noah either, so they went down one more. And there, the Pope's heart froze in terror in front of him, staring at him intently. There was a pair of colossal birds, similar to eagles, but with a beak so big it could eat both of them in a single bite. The Pope stood still and whispered to Rukaku, "Rukaku, what do we do about these little birds?" The priest replied calmly, "Your Holiness, they're sleeping. We have those too." They're creatures from Jewish tradition, mentioned in the Talmud, similar to the Leviathan, but from the skies. I don't think they'll do anything to us. Noah must be keeping them under some deep sleep. The Jews believe that accidentally one of those destroyed 60 cities, but you know how Jews tend to exaggerate, right? Leon answered, "All right, let's keep walking, show respect and smile." Rukaku, walk slowly, smiling and happy until we can get out of here. And so, waving with their hands slowly, with a big smile and a lot of cold sweat, the two of them crossed that place until they continued down a narrow hallway. There they heard footsteps running and Noah's laughter saying, "Ha ha ha! You haven't faced the worst yet. Ha! Try to find me. Hurry up. When the carnivorous siren sings, it will all be over. Ha ha ha!" The Pope snorted in annoyance and quickened his pace. They heard that Noah opened a compartment leading to the lower level. They hurried down and fell into the water. Yes, inside that level there was a compartment with water that reached up to their chests, like a giant pool. A beautiful and wild mermaid leapt up before them, then swam away until she got out of the water and sat at the opposite end. She spoke to them in a deep voice from her corner.
Noah hid in his bedroom. He's back here at the end, past the water. He always does the same thing. You're not the first ones who have tried to get him off the Ark. Thousands of years ago, when the exit of this cave wasn't collapsed yet, many others came looking for him. They all claimed to be sent by God and asked for our help to defeat their enemies. Noah gave them all the same test, one after another, but always it ended the same way for all of them when they reached this level. In a little while I will sing my song, and you, just like the others who dared to set foot in here, you will fall in love with me instantly. You'll come swimming desperately into my arms. I'm going to start chewing you from the head until there's nothing left of you. Besides, I'm already getting hungry. Centuries ago I ate my partner, and since then I haven't tasted anything but that horrible manna the old man feeds us.
The Pope, with incredible interest, stood up straight and said, "I come in the name of God, and here with my faithful assistant Rukaku, we are going to overcome this challenge, right, Rukaku?" But when he didn't get a response, the Pope turned around and saw that the priest had earplugs in his ears. Leon looked at him happily and taking one out of his ear, said to him, "Did you have the
Same idea.
to cover our ears like Ulysses did with his sailors to avoid the charms of the sirens from the Odyssey? Did you feel the same? Congrats, Rukaku." The priest hurried to clarify. "They're actually the ones I use when I go swimming, Your Holiness. I can't stand water in my ears." I hadn't thought about the siren, because I actually already had them on when she started talking, and I didn't hear anything she said. "But do you have others for yourself here?" Leon took them out of her hands, and both of them, with their ears well covered, swam to the end of the pond. Meanwhile, the enormous mermaid, with a devilish smile, was following us with her gaze like a snake about to catch a couple of mice. When they got close, she opened her arms and began to sing, but the earplugs worked perfectly and they didn't hear anything. They got out of the water and walked down another hallway until they finally entered Noah's cabin. The old man, surprised and excited, hugged them. They uncovered their ears, and then Noah said to them, "I can't go with you. But God told me that the day would come when someone worthy would come looking for me. And then, should I give you the map I inherited, the one that shows the exact spot where my ancestors are?" Noah took a scroll wrapped with a golden ribbon and handed it to the Pope with a bow, saying enthusiastically, "Here where it's marked, here you have the exact spot where my ancestors are. They still guard it, you understand? They still guard it, ha ha ha." The Pope looked at that ancient map in amazement and asked, "What do you mean by your ancestors, and what is it that they guard?" Noah smiled and said, "Follow me outside. I repeat, God has ordered it this way. Let's go. When you are in the tunnel, I will give you my answer." Ha ha ha. The old man led them through the levels. The mermaid and some other creatures bowed as he passed. Then he clapped in front of the Nephilim Drago, who immediately woke up and escorted them in a very bad mood to the tunnel. When they reached the exit, Noah gave them another hug. Laughing and excited, he said to the Pope, "My ancestors are there. Study the map and you'll be able to find them easily. You know, I'm the son of Malik, grandson of Methuselah. My grandfather's father was Enoch. And above is Jared Mahalalel, who was born not in Seth. He's their first son of those who are on this map, waiting for you to go see them. That's how God told me. At this exact point you will find Adam and Eve, and they still guard it. Yes, sir." The Pope opened his eyes wide and had to shake his head to think clearly from the astonishment. And stammering, he asked her, "What exactly is it that you guard?" Noe laughed and asked, "What do you mean?" What do you think? Eve didn't eat the whole apple. She just took a bite, and that's why God condemned their spirits to guard it forever. I'm talking about the apple, about sin, the source of all evil for men, the most powerful evil object on earth. But if a true messenger of God can bless it, just imagine, the spirits of my ancestors will be able to rest in peace. Dress in your finest clothes, because you are going to visit the specters of Adam and Eve, the guardians of the cursed apple. But now run to the exit and don't set foot here again." Leon didn't even get excited because Noah pushed them and the Nephilim Draco. They spread their wings and started spitting fireballs at the tunnel walls, which began to collapse, covering the great cave of the Ark and forcing them to run at full speed to escape on the short trip back. Inside the plane, they remained silent. Once they arrived at the room, the Pope gave the map to Rukaku and told him, "Investigate everything you can to decipher it. Keep it private and return when finished. We must keep that apple. There's a reason we learned its location. That's how God intended it." Rukaku puffed out his chest and said in a solemn voice, "I think it's a good idea. We already have the graves with the bodies of Adam and Eve. It would be good for their spirits to rest here as well. And as for the map, deciphering it won't be needed, Your Holiness. See who signed it. Do you notice? Noah's great-grandfather Enoch did it, the one who walked with God and was taken by him without dying. Alright, it turns out that he came back sometime later. And well, he wasn't very happy because we left his book, the famous Book of Enoch, out of the Gospels. And you can imagine, he's the second most powerful being in the universe, right below God. So facing him wasn't a good idea. We reached an excellent agreement, Your Holiness. We print and distribute his book from here in secret, and he promised in return, well, that he wouldn't destroy us. Like I said, an excellent agreement. But the good thing is that he loves solitude. So he comes often and usually stays down here. Do you want to meet him? And of course, the Pope and Rukaku planned to go down to see Enoch so he could help them decipher the map. I can already tell you they reached the place where Adam and Eve's specters still stand guard. The Apple of Sin. Too bad that nothing turned out as they expected. But that's another story. I am the documentarian, and this was the Pope. Visit to Noah.